Hey guys, today I want to explain to you guys why everything is about the muscle tissue and fat tissue of animals and why you should mainly consume this substance. So, when we look at animals like carnivores, herbivores, and pretty much every animal, what actually builds their body and what they're looking for in the diet is raw fat and raw protein, as that's what we call it. The raw tissue that makes up their body. If you look at a rabbit, it's mostly muscle and there's some fat. It has skin, it has hair, which are all protein structures as we are taught. If you look at a tiger, it has teeth, it has bones, which are made of minerals for the most part, and it has water in the body just like humans do. It has the fat tissue and has the protein tissue. If you look at the colder climates, animals will have more fat. If you look at the warmer climates, animal has less fat. But all of animals are pretty much made out of the same stuff, raw muscle and raw fat. And most animals actually eat raw muscle and raw fat by eating other animals. Well, the herbivores actually mostly eat plants, cellulose, and the fiber of plants. And why they can do this is because they have complex digestive systems to turn this fiber and turn these plant products into actual muscle tissue and fat tissue. So if you look at things like gorillas, things like rabbits, things like cows, they all have bigger and more complex digestive systems to still manage to get the protein and fat that they need. Because of course their bodies aren't made out of carbs. No one is storing carbs. No one is storing carbohydrates despite a few grams in your muscle tissue, which is the glucose that the body can make itself from the actual fat and protein that we consume. So really what everyone is looking for is the raw fat and the raw protein. Well, an example, as I already mentioned, gorillas, they reconsume their feces. They have large guts which turn the fiber into fat and protein, and then they reconsume their feces. Rabbits do the same, and other animals like cows, they have complex digestive systems which have microbes which turn the plant fiber, they eat the plant fiber, and they turn it into fat and protein. And the cow eats the microbes. This way, all these animals are getting fat and protein, which builds their bodies, which builds their hair. They're getting the minerals, which builds their hair, and they're getting water from these other things that they're consuming. So really, and everything an animal needs is electrolytes or salts, water, fat, and protein. And that's all that they're made of. If you look at bones, it's all minerals. If you look at fat, you get it from what you're consuming. You look at protein, it makes the hair. It's all very simple. So how are these rabbits getting that fat and protein when they can't hunt, when they can't kill other animals, or they're incapable of getting larger animals for their daily sustenance? They continuously eat those easy to get plant foods and they turn them into those valuable resources. Like we still consume rabbits because they have what they need. They have muscle and fat. They mostly have muscle, but we eat them because they can get what they eat themselves from plants. And that's why herbivores are very useful for humans to farm. And an easier way to access meat despite hunting. And that's why I think the future of, if every human would turn to their natural diet, they would actually farm these herbivores, as we are already doing today. And if you look at dairy, if you look at the first food of humans, it's also just fat and protein and lactose. It's all very simple in the end. So yeah. Now, if you think about how humans get the food, we hunt. We make tools and we kill the animal. We actually have the capability through our larger brain to hunt the animal ourselves, but these herbivores are clearly not capable of the hunt. Although if you would feed them the raw fat and the raw protein tissue, they would sustain themselves with them because they have the more complex digestive systems to do so. We humans, we have a simple digestive system. We are monogastric animals, one stomach chamber, and because it's very acidic, we have no problem in breaking down the raw meat, the natural product. As soon as you would cook these products or try to introduce plant foods, the human stomach and the human stomach acidity is not capable of fermenting this properly. It will struggle to do so. You have more gas, you have more problems, and you have digestive issues because you are not made to digest these plants in that way. That's what the herbivores are made for. And you eat the herbivores. And although I already said so, the herbivores would eat meat if they had the access to it. And they probably could sustain themselves off of it very easily. So in the end, everyone is happy to eat muscle tissue, but some just cannot get it. And the diet of humans should be mostly muscle tissue. You could argue that humans use their brain a lot, and the brain is mostly made of unsaturated fats. But if you look at what muscle meat is actually comprised out of, there is enough omega-3 to be able to assimilate that brain tissue, that unsaturated fat. Muscle meat has everything to make what the body needs, and that's why you can sustain yourself off of it without eating organs. You will be very healthy. Although there's no problem with eating organs, and it can be very beneficial because they're nutrient bombs. As long as the animal is healthy, they can be very tasty, and they can deliver a very large amount of nutrients, especially if there's a further food shortage for some reason. And if you have a pregnant woman, if she has to create new life, feed a whole baby, it will be very beneficial to give her those organs so she can stay strong, power up, and have sufficient nutrients to feed both herself and nourish the child. So what we can conclude from this is every animal likes having fat and protein. Just some animals get it a different way. If you are truly in need of a large amount of nutrients, a large amount of minerals, you can introduce other things like more of the organs. But they're largely unnecessary if we look at how humans have survived, how humans hopefully will survive in the future. Now, on the topic of salt and electrolytes, you can see that in modern day tap water is very unstructured, it is ripped of other minerals, and naturally humans in a non-polluted world would not need a lot of extra minerals, extra water content. Because ruminant meat, animals to stay alive, they have the minerals in them, and if you eat meat raw, it will stay very soft, it will stay full of water, and therefore you're getting the water and the minerals. And if you even drink some blood, you'll be getting even more of those minerals, because the bodies of animals are just fueled by water, fat, and protein. Water, fat, and protein and minerals. So water, fat, protein, and minerals, and that's what everything is built out of. So what does a human body need to function optimally? Water, fat, protein, minerals, all in its raw state. So one of the main things human body is made out of is those water and protein, water and minerals. But what we can see is when there's toxins introduced to our body uses certain detox mechanisms like puking, like diarrhea, like peeing, like pooing to eliminate waste. But creating this waste and moving these toxins out of the body, it costs water, it costs minerals. And these are not always, if you're not supplementing extra water and minerals, just your daily meat intake will not be enough to remove these minerals and not get dehydrated, especially if you live in a very toxic environment, if there's air pollution, if you're more moderately active. You will need to supplement water. And if you look at the total modern world, most people do not have a source of water, do not have spring mineral water, do not have water rich in minerals. So we need to get a way to get minerals. And what's the largest source of minerals we can get? It's salt. And what turns out, salt is only harmful to the body if it's not accompanied by water. People can kill themselves with salt if there's no water. But turns out, if you have sufficient water and you have sufficient salt, you can overload the body with water and salt. And the only thing that will happen is the body will get out of salt, it will get out of water, and it will eliminate the surplus through peeing or diarrhea or any other exit method. And even during this process, the toxins will get flushed out of the system. So not only are you getting a beautiful surplus of water and minerals, as long as if you have enough water and minerals to flush out the excess, there will be no harm, and you will only be thriving more and more because you're getting a wealth of water and minerals. And people think this is dangerous, but your kidneys are literally made to filter these minerals and to keep the balance. And the only thing you're doing is supplying your body with the adequate amount. So what we can assimilate from all this information is that we get our protein, we get our fat, we get our water, and we get our minerals from the salt harvested naturally, not processed. So the sea is the richest area of minerals and water. So if we get them to an approximate solution that is equal to our own blood, which is around 9 grams per liter, we can fully supply our body with the adequate minerals and water together with the protein and fat from our diet. So if we were to word this differently, it would be muscle meat, largely from ruminant animals, as we mostly farm those, and we apparently, since evolution, have mostly lived with larger ruminant animals, which makes sense because we would used to live in larger communities and hunt these animals with spears and all that stuff. It makes sense because we humans are built in a way that approximately this amount of muscle meat has enough fat and protein for us. Of course, I think you could eat any animal that has enough protein and fat and live with it. Even if you have rabbits, people say rabbit starvation is a thing, and definitely is a thing because you will be lacking fat if you're moderately active. So if you supplement the fat, you can live. If you have enough fat and protein, you can live with any animal, in theory. And I don't think it's particularly harmful to only have to. I don't think you only have to eat beef. I do think it's fairly optimal and probably the best. But really, any animal fat and protein would do best. Although the human body does tend to thrive with more saturated fat, second unsaturated fat, and last polyunsaturated fatty acids. Those are least necessary because we also have the least of them in our body. Our brain is mostly comprised of the unsaturated acids or the polyunsaturated fatty acids, and the rest of our body is mainly unsaturated fat and saturated fat. So if you think about it, we really don't need large quantities of the unsaturated kind. So fish would be less optimal, although I still think any raw animal would be healthy for the human body. But beef would theoretically be more optimal. So your diet should mostly consist of 80 to 90% beef, I'd say. If you are getting dehydrated, you want to supplement water with sea salt. If it's well harvested, so you're getting the abundance of mineral, getting the abundance of water, you're getting the abundance of nutrients from the muscle meat. If you're a pregnant woman, you could supplement some organs, or even as a regular person, if you feel good and you think it's beneficial, you could supplement some organs. Not too much, although in my theory, I think even if you would eat too much organs, as long as you're eating enough fat, the excess minerals from the organs would get eliminated if you're getting enough water and salt. And that's why water and salt are so powerful. It just gets rid of what you do not need, what does not serve you, and it maintains the body in its perfect state. And that's why I'm such a big fan of it. So, sum it up, we eat raw muscle meat, we eat raw fat, we supplement with water and salt, so our body always has a wealth of what it needs. And if you think about this will work for any animal, not just humans.